Hey there! We are back once again to continue breaking down the solutions to the monolith quest. If you're watching this right now, you should be completely caught up on quest 1. And if you aren't, I personally recommend going back and starting there because today we're going to cover quest 2 challenge number 1. So if you remember, the theme for quest number 1 was love, and we have found out that the theme for quest number 2 is wisdom. And we have this cool blinged out owl that's here. So as usual, Artifact sent out a tweet for challenge number 1 of quest 2, and this was it. Up and down the road, the wise can look into a mirror and see more than a reflection. And the more has a typo in it, or maybe it's on purpose, but we'll find out later. So with this verbal clue, we also have this box. It is 9 by 9, and there's some shading going on over here. And if you remember from quest number 1, the end goal was usually trying to find, or always trying to find, an old tweet from Artifact Studios based on these clues, and there was a 19-digit URL at the end of Twitter URLs, or 19-digit number. And if you count these shaded boxes, you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So we should have a good idea that we might have to fill in numbers here, and there are perfectly 19 digits that would work for a Twitter URL. So there was a clue kind of floated around that instead of just on Twitter, that we would have to go outside Twitter and into our pods for clues for quest number 2. And if you go into the loot pod, you will see, or we found out that there was some very odd markings on the ground. These are usually not there, but they just appeared in all of our loot pods. And they are odd dots. They kind of look like dominoes. Some are filled in, some are not. And they're on the floor in the middle of the loot pod. And there's also some on the roof. It's definitely something to do with the quest because they popped up right before the quest, but kind of confusing when you just look at them for the first time, but definitely something to do with the quest. And just for a better visual, here is kind of what the dots look like visualized just on a piece of paper. Still kind of a little confusing, but this is the floor and this is the ceiling. And after that, Artifact sent out some additional clues to kind of help us along. One was this picture of a 1, and it's in the top left corner of that initial 9 by 9 box and shaded. Another one was a 4 in the bottom right hand corner, not shaded, of our 9 by 9 box. And lastly was this kind of odd equation, and if you kind of look at it, it kind of points to the dots. The line, you could kind of guess that the line, this is a dot on the floor, this is plus the dot on the ceiling, and you get that. So it kind of has different formulas here. And just going back into the loot pod, the first kind of look at the dots we had wasn't lined up perfectly to kind of see something, where if you look at the kind of the 3 dark dots and 1 white dot in the top left over there, if you look directly above it on the ceiling, you kind of have, the dots are filled up differently in the bottom left there, but you have the same pattern of 4 dots. They're not filled in completely, but the same pattern. So there's 1 in the corner and it zigzags up and down across. So up top left, there's 1 in the corner, and then it zigzags up and down. So it's actually an exact mirror of dots. The black or white kind of don't mirror, but the placement of the dots do. And you'll see it a little better right here. So this was what we saw on the floor, that top left, and then the zigzag. And then right above it, mirrored on the ceiling, you had this and the zigzag. So pretty much this is mirrored over here. And pretty much you could just kind of slide this over and it would land perfectly on top, at least with the placement of these pairs of 4 dots. And the other thing that kind of was worked on is that these dots actually look like the upper digits for Braille numbers. So all the placement of the dots can relate to Braille digit 0 through 9. So using that and going back to the formula clue that we got, we can we can kind of start to move forward on this. And also that typo in the middle, in the initial clue, the more with the X in it, was actually a clue. So it's actually pointing out XOR, which is a XOR logical operation. Another word for that is exclusive OR. So that's what this formula is. It's an exclusive OR, so it essentially compares two objects. It checks if they're exclusive, and if they are not exclusive, so they're the same here, they're not exclusive, then it's a false, which in this case is white. Here there's a white dot and a black dot, so each of these are exclusive. They are not the same, so it's true. It's a black dot. Same thing here. They're exclusive. They're different. True. Here they're the same. They're not exclusive. False. So from that, we can make the assumption that we have to do this formula by overlaying the ceiling and the floor dots. And one quick example of that is in that top left, we kind of had those the same kind of 4 on the floor and the ceiling. So if you compare these two, we can do that formula for each dot. So this black dot and a white dot, they are exclusive, so it's true, black. This dot is black, that dot is black, so they are not exclusive, false, white. This dot is black, that dot is black, so they are not exclusive, false. This dot is white, that dot is white, they are not exclusive, so false. So you have the 3 white dots here and a black dot there, and if you refer back to the Braille digit, that equates to a 1, that positioning. So essentially all you have to do is, for all these overlapping, the floor and ceiling sets of 4, do this formula for every single one. A little tedious, but this 1 in the top left, we already confirmed from the clue that 1 is in the top left. So if you do the same formula for all of these, you get this look here. So this is the initial 9x9 with all the overlapping pieces, you know, the 1 in the corner, the zigzagging. So that same formula, the XOR operation, if you do that for all the overlapping sets of 4 circles, this is what you get. But we are still missing a lot of digits, right? And the thing about that is, if you look at this kind of looks a little familiar. It's a Sudoku kind of panel. And luckily, even if you don't know how to play, you can just stick it into Google and have it solve it for you. So you could go into a solver, have it have manually enter in the numbers as we saw it previously. Just have it solve, and it automatically fills in all of the numbers that we need. So this looks like this when you layer the shading back on it. So now we have our 19-digit numbers that we need to use. The only issue with this is, if we've learned from the previous quest, is that Twitter URLs start with 1 and 4 as the first 2 digits, and they go backwards to 1, 3, maybe even 1, 2, but there are no Twitter URLs that start with 1, 6. We are not there yet, maybe in the future. So this doesn't work. So we actually had a little bit of a clue from Artifact that congratulations on finding the secret number, and now we must subtract this number. And there were some guesses that Artifact may have had a little bit of issues with the number, and they had to kind of pull an audible to get it correct. But either way, this was still a cool challenge. So once you take the 1-6 number, that 19-digit number, subtract out this, you will find a Artifact Twitter URL, and it leads you here. And that was challenge completed for Quest 2, challenge number 1. So as you can tell, quest number 2 is a little more advanced and difficult. So I probably will only be doing 1 challenge per video because they take a little more time. But thank you again for watching. Please comment or let me know if you have any questions or theories on the bottom. Like and subscribe, and I will see you again for challenge number 2 for Quest 2.